going to be refinishing this ornate vintage dresser. It's in good structural shape, but definitely needs an update. We started by removing the original finish on the top, exposing the raw walnut. Here you can see me previewing the grain using mineral spirits. It removes any wax residue, and it also allows me to see what the wood will look like. The wood grain on the drawer fronts is beautiful, so we'll also be staining that. When sanding veneer, you need to be careful that you don't burn through. I normally start at 150 grit and finish with 220 grit. You'll see a little peek there of the new chalk paints from Paint Couture, which I'm super excited to use. I'm going to be staining the top using a Paint Couture Glaze. I chose the color Amber Honey as I didn't want it too dark. The nice thing about using a water-based glaze versus an oil-based stain is first, there's no fumes, and secondly, the dry time is going to be quicker. I apply it the same way I would apply a oil-based stain. I normally use a throwaway shop rag, and I just try to get an even coverage. I then wipe off any excess, and you can see how beautiful that color looked on the walnut veneer. I'll simply repeat the process on the front of the drawers. Everything is now stained and dry. I'm going to be taping off the area that I don't want to get paint on. I prefer to use a delicate tape for this type of application just to protect the wood. I've also gone ahead and applied a coat of wax-free shellac to the entire piece that acts as both a sanding sealer as well as a primer for where I'll be painting. I have my new Paint Couture mister bottle, my microfiber roller, my synthetic Paint Couture brush, as well as the new chalk paint in the color Evergreen. I'm starting off using the Paint Couture synthetic brush to get into all the details. This piece has a lot of detail, so it'll be mostly brush work. I realized after I started painting that I forgot to seal my tape. So I grabbed some Paint Couture Extreme Guard Satin with a small artist brush and went ahead and sealed the tape. That ensures crisp lines when removing the painter's tape. You'll see me using my roller on the flat surfaces, and then after I let that clear coat dry on the tape, I went in and did those edges. It's time to paint the mirror while I wait for the dresser to dry. The mirror was also primed in a coat of wax-free shellac. I personally don't bother with taping off the glass on a mirror as I'm going to have to clean it anyway, so I just use a razor blade at the end to scrape off any paint that gets on the glass. This mirror is pretty detailed, so I use a brush for the majority of it. I do roll some of the flat surfaces just for a nice finish. This is my second coat of paint, and I have to tell you that the coverage of this new chalk paint by Paint Couture is fabulous. It also self-levels very nicely. There are absolutely no brush strokes. You'll see me using a little mist of water from my new Paint Couture mister bottle when I need it. I let the paint dry overnight and I went ahead and did a third coat. I'm now removing all the tape. Everyone always loves to see the tape get removed. The wood and paint combination is just so beautiful. I'm going to seal the mirror using Paint Couture's Extreme Guard Satin with the same brush I used to paint. I'll mix a little paint into the clear coat for a nice even finish. Once this dries, I'll go ahead and do one more coat of Extreme Guard Satin. While I'm waiting for the mirror to dry, we'll go ahead and spray our first coat of Extreme Guard Satin on the dresser itself. Spraying is my preferred application for top coat. I've gone ahead and let the first coat dry. I then sanded it back lightly with a sanding sponge, and we're now applying the second coat. I've decided to glaze some of the details in the same glaze I used to stain the wood. So I'm using the Amber Honey and a small artist brush to get the glaze into the details. I then take a wet rag and wipe off all the excess glaze. You can leave as little or as much as you want behind. I like a very clean look, so I want it to be very subtle, so I wipe off the majority of the glaze. My main objective is to add some dimension. I do not want it to look grungy or dirty, so I wipe off most of the glaze. Here's a little comparison of before and after the glaze, and how much the glaze makes that detail pop. I'm repeating the process on the other corner of the top drawer. I'll then go ahead and do the bottom drawer off camera. I'm going to go ahead and glaze some of the details on the mirror as well. You see me repeating the process that I used on the dresser, using a small artist brush to apply the glaze, and then a damp rag to wipe off all the excess. Here's our finished product. I think she's a real beauty.